Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Dee and this is Dee's Reading Lounge. This is where I'm sharing my love for reading at my own pace. Welcome to all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you coming to my channel and watching my videos. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I really do appreciate your continued support. You read the title right. I am in my romance bag with Miss Beverly, and that's coming from someone who is not naturally drawn to romance. And honestly, when I came back to BookTube or started watching BookTube videos again, getting back on my reading journey, I was amazed that so many people were interested in romance, because that was not even a thing a couple of years ago. Nobody was trying to read romance. So things have changed. I'm not sure what has changed. Maybe fresh authors, they're writing more contemporary. I'm not exactly sure. Now, I do have to say I have not read a whole lot of contemporary romances, though I do have some contemporary romances that I do want to get into this year, like here and there, but romance is not going to be my main or favorite genre. If you've been here before, you know I love historical fiction. However, I think I have found my sweet spot, because now I've only read 2 books from her, but I'm already picking up themes, like broader themes that she incorporates in at least the 2 books that I have read are centered around history. They're historical romances that weaves historical elements into a blossoming romantic story. And y'all, the books that I have read, the 2 books that I've read were just absolutely wonderful romance stories. So I'm like, okay, I might be a romance girl, especially historical romance. I don't know if there's any other historical romance writers out there. If you know of any, leave them down below. I would love to check them out eventually. But right now I'm in my Beverly Jenkins bag, and I'm just so in awe of her writing. I've just loved the 2 books. The 2 books I've read were bangers. So I'm going to show you the books that I have purchased from her. My goal is to read every single book that she has published. Now, she's been writing since the 90s. 94, she published her first book, and I do have that book right here. I'll show it in a minute. While I don't think I'm going to be starting in order, because I've already read 2 books kind of out of sequence or whatever. She has a lot of series in her collection, which I didn't realize that when I bought the books. But also they can also be standalone too, from what I'm hearing. They can be standalone, but because the characters in a lot of her books have been mentioned in other books and might be spin-offs from other books, it's kind of good to kind of, I guess, go in order. I don't know, but you don't have to. And I probably won't, but maybe, I'll go in some type of sequence from her oldest to her latest books, which are contemporary. She also writes a few contemporary, not many, and also romantic thrillers, y'all. Let me show you all the books that I have from her. All right, so I'll start with the books that I have already read. So the first one that I read, now I'm not gonna go into details about this book because I am planning on doing a wrap-up video, February wrap-up video next week, and I will talk more about it in that video. So I'm just gonna skim over the book, tell you what I thought about, well, show the book, okay? I'm just showing my collection of books. I don't wanna be redundant. Okay, so this is Josephine. This was my introduction to Beverly Jenkins. I don't know why I wanna call her Johnson. Anyway, Beverly Jenkins. And there was no rhyme or reason why I picked up this book, other than it is in a regular paperback size. That was probably the only reason, because I've never heard anybody rave or even talk about this book before I bought it. But some of her themes, I will talk a little bit about her themes, not necessarily what the book is about, because I'll, like I said, go into details next week in my wrap up. Include, she weaves historical Black events in her romantic stories, and also the 2 books that I have read, they've centered around strong Black female characters, okay? And there are many love interests. So this is actually a YA book. I didn't realize that until after I read it and did some digging or research. So it was written for young adults. However, you know, you don't have to be a young adult to read this book, because honestly, even though Josephine, the character, was 17 in this book, going on 18, back in those days, 17 and 18-year-olds were considered full-blown adults. They were getting married, they were having babies. That's Josephine. That's the first book that I read. Then we've got Forbidden, and I also did not realize that this was in a series as well. 5 stars. 5 freaking stars for this book. So this is book number 1 in the Old West series. And then book number 2 that I had to pick up because, you know, I'm like, now this has not happened to me since going back on my book journey, where I have read a author or wanted to read an author's entire catalog. My goal is to read her entire catalog. She does have an extensive catalog, like over 50 books, and she's been writing all these years. So eventually I would like to read everything that she's written, but I'm definitely gonna take my time with her to savor her writing and her books. So this is book number 2, Breathless, in the Old West series. And so I guess I'll read the back. So it says, as manager of one of the finest hotels in Arizona territory, Portia Carmichael has respect and stability, qualities surely missing from her harsh childhood. She refuses to jeopardize that by hitching herself to the wrong man. Suitors are plentiful, but none of them have ever looked quite as tempting as the family friend who just rode into town, and none has looked at her with such intensity and heat. What I can say about, maybe not in Josephine, because it's meant for young adults. It was more of an innocent type book. This book, like, they weren't even doing anything sexual, okay? And you could feel the stain between them, okay? So, yeah, she's got a lot of heat in her books, but also quality and substance, and yes. So that's Breathless, book number 2. And then the last book in that's Old West series is Tempest. So it says, one like Reagan Carmichael, an independent spirit equally at home in denims and dresses. Shooting Dr. Colton Lee in the shoulder is an honest error, but soon Reagan wonders if her entire plan to marry a man she's never met is a mistake. So that's all I'll say about this. This is book number 3, okay? And so let's talk about this one. So this one was the second book of Beverly. Was it second? Third. I think I bought this book. Yeah, I did buy this one before buying this one. And I bought this one because a Freeform lady said that if you like this book, read Belle, because Belle is actually in this book. Even though it's a standalone, like I said, she does mention past characters in future books. So this is Belle. This is Belle Palmer is finally free, separated from her father on the harrowing escape. Belle is lost and alone until she finds shelter with the Bests, the first free family she's ever known. For the first time in her 16 years, Belle can speak her mind except for the feeling for a certain dark-eyed young man, the Beau. So that's all I'll read. Now, if I had did my research, I would have read Belle first, because Belle is already introduced in Josephine. She's already in the family, and now this is Josephine's story with Belle incorporated. So it probably would have been ideal for me to read this first. That way, when I went into Josephine's story, I would already knew about Belle and her beau's romance and Belle's story. But it's a standalone. It can be read either way. All right, so the next book that I got, of course, is a favorite among a lot of people. Now, I was watching an interview, and the interviewer or viewer asked if you never read any Beverly Jenkins before, where would she suggest they start? And I thought she was going to say this book, because a lot of people recommend this book, you know, starting here. But she recommended Topaz. I don't think I have bought Topaz, because Topaz is $15. And I'm like, let me get through some of these books first before I spend the money on Topaz. I'm going to get it, but let me just be realistic, slow down. I've got plenty of her books. Let me just read these books first, okay? Then I'll read Topaz. But this is Indigo. A lot of people love this book, and the cover is gorgeous. blue and purple. So this one says Beverly is an award-winning, okay, no, we already know she's award-winning. As a child, Hester Wyatt escaped slavery, but now the dark-skinned beauty is a dedicated member of Michigan's Underground Railroad, offering other runaways a chance at the freedom she has learned to love. When one of her fellow conductors bring her an injured man to hide, Hester doesn't hesitate even after she is told about the price on his head. The man in question is the great conductor known as the Black Daniel, a vital member of the North's Underground Railroad network. So that sounds very interesting, and this one is going to be centered around someone who is a slave and not maybe emancipated. So that's indigo. Okay. All right. And so the next book is this one right here. This one, they wrapped this book up. I guess they were getting tired of me sending books back, because if the book is not right, you know, it's bad enough that it's a mass paperback book. Okay. But if it's bent, I'm going to send it back. Okay. Because I'm already, you know, struggling reading this mass paperback, and it's so tiny. I want the book to be perfect. So they have started to wrap my books. I guess they looked my profile like, oh, her book's got to be perfect. So let's wrap it up. So this is her first book, Night Song. And so I think I want to read this one soon, because I do want to go in some type of order, even though I might not. I want to go into, you know, her earliest books first. So it says, Carolee Henson knows no soldier can be trusted to stay in one place, and that includes handsome Sergeant Chase Jefferson of the 10th Cavalry. Dallying with the dashing man in blue could cost the pretty independent Kansas school teacher her job and her reputation. So Kara is determined to repel Chase's advances, even though her aloof facade barely mask her smoldering desire. Her romances, I can definitely say, well, not in Josephine. That was like more like young love, but that's the perfect description. Smoldering, because you have to put that heat out. This one is Night Song, her very first book. The next one, I'm going to be taking this one back. I haven't made it to take it back, but it came bent like this, as you can see. So I do have a brand new copy right here, all wrapped up. This one is one of her contemporary romances, and it's called Deadly Sexy. So it says, though her Lexus may be broken on the California freeway, Jessie Teresa Blake is no damsel in distress. Rich, smart, and beautiful, JT, or Lady Blake as she is called, is one of the toughest sports agents around. She's negotiated mega bucks contracts for every superstar in the business, and only the most confident of men can match wits with her. Men like Reese Anthony, the impossible sexy trucker who gives her a lift back to Oakland. So that is Deadly Sexy, and I think there is a movie on Prime, but I'll eventually watch it after I read the book. So the next book that I have is Rebel, and this is book number 1 in the Women Who Dare series. Belinda Lacey's mission in the steamy heart of New Orleans is to help the newly emancipated survive and flourish. But soon she discovers that here, freedom can also mean danger. When thugs destroy the school she has set up and then targets her, Belinda runs for her life and straight into the arms of Captain Drake LeVake. Now, LeVake did show up in this book right here. It was the male main character's long-lost sister's husband, I believe. So I did recognize that name. So we'll see if there is a connection. So this is book number 1 in the Women That Dare series. So the second book in that series is Wild Rain, which I will put up here. I don't have it. It is going to be coming tomorrow. So this one says, banished by her grandfather at the age of 18, Spring Lee has survived scandal to claim her own little slice of paradise. She's proud of working her ranch alone and unwilling to share it with a stranger, especially one like Garrett McCrae, who makes her second guess her resolve to avoid men. That sounds good as well. That's book number 2. And book number 3 is To Catch a Raven. So this one says lying and cheating may be sins to some people, but for Raven Moreau, it is a way of life. She comes from a long line of grifters and couldn't be prouder until she's forced to help the government. A former Confederate official is suspected of stealing the Declaration of Independence, and Raven, posing as a housekeeper, is tasked with getting it back. Her partner is the too handsome Braxton Steele, masquerading as a valet driver. Brax is also supposed to be her husband. So I think it's, what is that trope? Fake dating or something like that. He has his own reasons for doing this job, but when their pretend marriage ignites into fiery passion, they'll have to put everything, including their hearts, on the line. And y'all, that is it. That is my Beverly collection. So my goal is to read these books and not buy any more, because I don't need to buy any more until I have read, a significant amount of the books that I've already gotten from her. So now I have several books on deck from her that I am highly anticipating reading all of them, especially Belle, because I love that Josephine so much, because it was just such a sweet, cute, coming of age, sweet romantic romance book that I can't wait to read this. And Belle looks so lovely on this cover. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care and be blessed. And let me know if you've read Beverly Jenkins. There I go, trying to say Johnson. Jenkins, what is your favorite book from her? I would love to know in the comments. Bye.